Hello there, I'm Sarah McCluskey and this is Research Adjacent. Each episode I talk to amazing research adjacent professionals about what they do and why it makes a difference. Keep listening to find out why we think the research adjacent space is where the real magic happens. Hello and welcome to a special episode of Research Adjacent. This episode is part of Podcasthon, a global movement which encourages podcasters to use their collective voice to support charitable causes. The idea is to dedicate a special episode of the podcast to showcasing a charity that we think is doing amazing work and release it between the 14th and the 20th of March. So here is mine. So, you might not know this because I really don't talk about it that much, but for every podcast episode released, I donate to plant a tree in the Highlands of Scotland through rewilding charity Trees for Life. At the moment, there are 30 trees in our virtual grove, and you can go and visit that through the link in the show notes. And I am aiming to keep adding to that so that in time, the total number of trees matches the number of episodes that I have released, which including this episode is currently 89. So, first of all, I'll tell you a bit about why I decided to support Trees for Life, and then I'll tell you a bit more about the charity and what they do. So, not long after I started my company, which is officially called Sarah McCluskey Limited, not Research Adjacent, I decided that I wanted to donate 1% of my business income to charity. I was inspired by the 1% for the Planet movement, which encourages bigger businesses to do exactly that and donate 1% of their turnover to environmental causes. And it is also just kind of baked into who I am and how I operate, that I want to run the kind of business that doesn't just benefit me and my family, it benefits the community and the wider world too. And to be honest, this podcast is part of that as well, trying to share that information with the world. I am aware, however, that creating a podcast comes with associated environmental costs. For example, the carbon dioxide generated by everything from running my editing software to hosting the recordings to you charging your mobile phone and headphones just to listen to it. So I wanted to find an environmental charity to support and that felt like the right fit. Now, making a decision like that is one thing, but deciding exactly which charity to support is a whole other minefield. There are so many possibilities and it is really hard to choose just one. But this is how I came to the one I did. As you can probably tell from my accent, I grew up in quite a rural part of Scotland. I also grew up as the daughter of two biologists and then in time took myself off to study botany and plant biochemistry. And as a result of this, you can probably tell I'm pretty keen on plants, especially out in the wild, because honestly, I am absolutely terrible at keeping houseplants alive. So they're better off out in the wild rather than in my house. And I also understand just the enormous environmental value that they have. I mean, seriously, they make all of our food and oxygen from sunlight. That is just incredible. And I don't think we give them enough credit. But I also knew how much most of us neglect our plant friends. We are crowding them out, killing them with pesticides, creating bland and precarious monocultures, and just generally not being very kind to them, considering everything that they give us in return. Then I read the book Wilding by Isabella Tree, which I highly recommend, and that book introduced me to the whole concept of rewilding, and it's something that I've been interested in ever since. Reintroduced beavers are really well established near my parents' home, and I'm also really excited that they might reintroduce lynx soon. They're even talking about doing it in Northumberland, which is near where I live. Farmers are replanting hedgerows, forest managers are diversifying their planting, and I have even left half of my garden to its own devices. I'm calling it rewilding. You might just call it an excuse for my lack of gardening skills, but still, I feel like I'm doing my bit. I also think it's great the way that rewilding has the potential to reinvigorate rural communities, and that is something that, having grown up in quite a rural part of Scotland, that I really care about. And that is both through tourism but also through good old-fashioned farming and land management skills. And so rewilding is good for people as well as nature. So this is all good news, even though it never seems to be happening fast enough given the pace of climate change. That's where Trees for Life come in. I'm not sure where I first heard about Trees for Life, but given that I hear about most things through podcasts, it was probably on a podcast. It might have been Wild for Scotland, which if you want another recommendation for podcast fans who are interested in Scotland and travel and wildlife and all sorts of things in Scotland, that's a great one to go and have a look at. So yeah, Trees for Life are a rewilding charity, and they are working to rewild huge swathes of the Scottish Highlands, particularly around the Loch Ness area, Loch Ness and the Cairngorms. Their primary base is at the Dundregan estate, which is near Loch Ness, where they have got 10,000 acres, which was purchased by the charity in 2008, and that is their flagship rewilding project. They also have other projects on the go now, including the groundbreaking community collaboration Afric Highlands and the Cairngorms Aspen Network. Since they were founded in the 1990s, Trees for Life have planted nearly 2 million trees, especially Scots pine, aspen and mountain willow. And the Dundregan estate now includes a rewilding centre, a tree nursery, a seed collection project, and they're doing a lot there to help re-establish native trees and increase forest diversity. From their base, they're also not just restoring woodlands, but they're also focusing on peatland and river habitats as well. And through their missing species programme, they have reintroduced red squirrels to certain parts of the forest, advocated for beavers and lynx, and they are looking to reintroduce a type of ancient cattle called taurus, as well as reintroducing less charismatic but no less important insects and plants. Now, one of the things as a kind of public engagement-y type person that particularly impressed me about Trees for Life is their mission to rewild people as well as the natural landscape. So it's not just about some nostalgic idea of rewilding the ancient Caledonian forest, although that is part of it, but also about creating good jobs and breathing new life into some of these communities. A particular success has been their carbon credit scheme, which passes a third of the revenue on to local communities. And an analysis of 13 major rewilding projects recently found that there had been a 400% increase in jobs in a variety of areas, including tourism and recreation, land management, ecology and environmental monitoring, with the Dundregan estate seeing the biggest rise out of all of those 13 major projects. So it is for all of these reasons that I am proud to support Trees for Life. And just by listening to this podcast, you are too. I also love the way that Trees for Life enables me to donate regularly and see those trees accumulating over time in our research adjacent grove. This is something other charities might want to take note of. I'm pretty sure also that there must be some people working for Trees for Life who would be considered research adjacent, people who are putting rewilding research into practice or managing some of those community engagement projects. I would have loved to interview somebody from Trees for Life for this podcast, but I only found out about Podcasthon too late to set something up, but maybe that is something for a future episode. For now, I encourage you to go and check out the amazing work that Trees for Life are doing. I'll put a link to their website and socials in the show notes, and maybe one day we can arrange a research adjacent meetup at the Dundregan Rewilding Estate. That would be amazing. I would love it so much. I think we definitely have to make it happen. So that is it for this special bonus episode. Do go and see if your other favourite podcasters are doing special episodes this week for Podcasthon to showcase their favourite charities. But for now, that's it. See you soon. Bye. Thanks for listening to Research Adjacent. If you're listening in a podcast app, please check you're subscribed and then use the links in the episode description to find full show notes and to follow the podcast on LinkedIn. You can also find all the links and other episodes at www.researchadjacent.com. Research Adjacent is presented and produced by Sarah McCluskey, and the theme music is by Lemon Music Studios on Pixabay. And you, yes you, get a big gold star for listening right to the end. See you next time.